Hello everyone, and welcome once again to Caleb Likes Books. Today, I'm going to be reviewing another Star Wars novel, and that is Star Wars: The High Republic Convergence by Zoraida Córdova. So I have been, unfortunately, a bit behind on The High Republic. Up until Path of Deceit, I had been able to get my hands on every single book, at least when it comes to the adult and the young adult books. Got them when they came out, but unfortunately that wasn't the case with this one. I got this one a bit late. But I did manage to get my hands on it and read it. My overall thoughts on the High Republic so far have been very positive. I really enjoyed Phase 1 a lot, particularly the adult novels, but I enjoyed the young adult novels as well. The Fallen Star and The Rising Storm are among my favorite Star Wars books ever. And then Path of Deceit I really enjoyed as well, which was the first novel of Phase 2. And this is the first adult novel in Phase 2. And for those of you who aren't familiar with the whole phases of the High Republic, Phase 1 takes place a few hundred years before The Phantom Menace. Phase 2 takes place about 150 years before Phase 1. And then Phase 3 is going to take place following Phase 1. But to start talking about Convergence specifically, to start with some positives, first of all, this is probably not going to be a super in-depth review, because frankly, I don't have a lot to talk about with this book, at least for me. Some other people probably have more to talk about, but I did not. But I did really like the beginning of the story and the end of the story. I think that the book does a really good job setting things up and paying things off. The book is split into 4 parts. I can't remember if all of part 1 really engaged me, but Part 1 was really good. Part 4 was really good. It's just the in-between that didn't quite work for me, but I'll talk about that later. So I think the book began and ended really well, and I actually really did enjoy the climax of this book a lot, as I'll talk about more a little later. Wasn't really feeling this book all that much, but then as I got towards the end, my interest in it really kind of increased a lot. I also did enjoy the characters a decent amount in this book. I think some of their interactions were pretty fun. I especially enjoyed Axel Greylark, who is the son of one of the chancellors, because during this era of the High Republic, not the High Republic in general, but this specific point in time, there are actually 2 chancellors, and he is the son of one of them. And I really enjoyed his chapters from his perspective, particularly early on. He's kind of established as this kind of roguish. He's, you know, the son of the chancellor, so obviously there's a lot of baggage that comes with that, but he's kind of, you know, getting involved in some things that maybe he shouldn't, and like I said, kind of more of a roguish type character, and he has an interesting journey throughout this book, particularly, again, towards the ending, and all that stuff. And there's some other characters, Gela, who is the main character, who is on the cover of the book. She's alright. I didn't really find her terribly engaging as a character, honestly, but I did like her a decent amount, and she interacts with Axel a lot, and their interactions are pretty good. And there's some other characters as well that, again, I didn't love, but they were decent characters. I also really enjoyed the little bit that we got of the Path of the Open Hand in this book. In Path of Deceit, the first young adult novel of Phase 2, the Path of the Open Hand was very much at the forefront, and it was one of my favorite things that that book did. I really enjoyed the Path of the Open Hand in that book. I find them one of the most intriguing factions within Star Wars canon at the moment. And they don't play a big role in this book, certainly not nearly as big as they did in the other one. But they do appear in this book occasionally, and I enjoyed seeing them again. But that is pretty much all I got for my positives. As far as negatives, there's really one big one, which typically when there is one big negative for me, it tends to be the same thing a lot of the time. And that's that this book, for a significant chunk of it, just did not really pull me in that much. I, again, really liked the setup, and I really liked the ending and the climax and all those things. But the middle part, just for some reason, didn't really pull me in. The characters, while they were good, and I enjoyed some of their interactions, didn't really pull me in. The plot didn't really pull me in. I really enjoyed the setup of the plot, it being basically about these 2 planets that have I don't know if they're orbiting each other or if they're just very close. I can't remember. They're two very connected planets, but they kind of have this rivalry with each other, and there's some stuff going on with them in this book, which was a very interesting setup. But I just didn't find the stuff going on in the plot very interesting. And I'm not sure really what the reason for that was. I don't know if I just, for some reason, just didn't catch things very well, or if it was the writing style. I don't know what it was, but something about this book just, for that, parts 2 and 3, just didn't really grab me all that much. And that really is the only negative that I have for this book, because I think it basically applies across the board. I apologize if you can't hear me too well. I'm still getting over my cold, and my voice is still not 100% working correctly. At least I'm recording this like 2 weeks ahead of time. Hopefully by the time this video comes out, I'll be over this thing. But yeah, I really was kind of mixed on this book. I think my opinion on it is more positive than negative, but overall it was kind of mixed. I felt a little underwhelmed, considering how much I have loved the last several High Republic books, going back to really The Fallen Star. Even though Midnight Horizon has kind of fallen off for me a little bit, I did still enjoy that quite a bit, and I really enjoyed Path of Deceit as well. And then Rising Storm, but Out of the Shadows, the one in between, didn't quite do so much for me. But I would probably say that this one did feel a little underwhelming, and it is probably one of my least favorite High Republic books so far, if not my least favorite. In fact, out of the ones that I have read, it probably is my least favorite, which sucks to say because I have loved this era so far, but not all of them can really land. There's always going to be something that's not quite going to work for you. And I'm just sad that it was this one. As far as a rating out of 10 that I would give this book, I would probably give it a 6.5, which is not a bad score. It's not quite on the level where I'd say it's good and I would really recommend it. But it's kind of in that, it wasn't really mediocre. It wasn't like, there was nothing good about it, or that there wasn't really anything that I really enjoyed about it. But it wasn't quite on the level of me saying this was a good read. I would recommend reading it. Even though I probably would recommend reading this if you're into the High Republic, of course, but, it just didn't quite land for me. But anyways, that is pretty much it for this video. So let me know down in the comments what you thought of this book, if you have read it, or if you haven't, if you're going to read it, if you're into the High Republic or whatever. I have heard generally that the next book, Cataclysm, which just came out recently at the time that I'm recording this, seems to be getting a much more positive reception. This one also got a decently positive reception from what I saw, but it was seemingly maybe a little more mixed than some of the past books. But this new one, Cataclysm, does seem to be getting a really positive reception, so I'm hoping that I will like that one more. I don't know when I'm going to read it. It might be, sometime soon. It might be in a few months. I don't know. But I will definitely be checking that out, and hopefully we'll enjoy it more. But anyways, that is pretty much it for this video. So thank you for watching, and I will see you guys next time.